Welcome to Two Woke Bonnets, a podcast where we revisit the classic TV shows of our Gen X childhoods and see how well they hold up today. With your hosts, Carol and Joey.
Hello and welcome to the Prairie. This is Carol.
I'm Joey.
And we are doing season 1 episode. Well, this would be episode 21, according to Peacock.
But
Yes.
it's actually episode 20.
Yes.
Next year, we won't have this problem.
It won't matter
Next
because
season.
they start from 1 in season 2. And we are coming close to the end of season 1 here. So this is Child of Pain. Very much an after-school special movie or episode. Directed once again by Victor French. 2 in a row directed by Victor French. So we of course don't see Isaiah at all in this episode.
Mr. Edward, not to be seen.
Yeah, so we start with Graham cooking dinner.
Yeah,
of potatoes.
Yeah, so we see village townspeople we never knew.
Yeah, Graham and his
John
dad.
Stewart.
What is his dad's name?
John and Graham.
John and Graham. Okay, I knew it began with a J.
Yeah.
But John and Graham. John comes home and he is very obviously drunk, and he's got a whiskey stash in the barn, and he takes a drink from that, and he goes in and Graham's peeling potatoes, and he asks him, "Is dinner ready yet?" And Graham's like, "Well, getting the potatoes started. Do you have the meat?" And John's like, "Oh, I done forgot." He drank the meat, Graham. He drank the meat.
Yeah. So.
But he's
like, "It's okay, Dad. We've got enough potatoes."
Lots of potatoes. Graham is an unrelentingly cheerful lad.
Which is interesting because the title is Child of Pain.
Yes.
And although the child has physical pain, he does not appear to have the emotional scarring that he
would
displays.
have been there.
Yeah, it should have been.
This is Little House dipping the toe into a message like this and not quite knowing how far to put their
This is definitely a 1970s woke moment for your bingo card.
Yeah.
Because they're addressing child abuse.
An unwoke moment and a woke moment. Woke moment because they tried, unwoke with how they handled it.
Yes. So once again, mother has died.
Yes.
Mother died at childbirth.
Now, we don't learn that until halfway through the episode, really.
Which raises the question, if father how did he get this child to the point that it's now 9 or 10 in school? Mary and Laura's age?
Yeah.
And successfully dressed and clothed and all this stuff. We don't find out, like, this is not like the season with Olga, with the episode with Olga with the different shoes where there was a grandmother in the picture. This is just the boy and his father.
And
now,
dad.
Maybe there was other people that helped get him to that point and they went away and now this is where they're at.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get explained to us at all. Not anywhere in the episode.
Just him. And they've been there, obviously, for a very long time.
Yes. Long enough for Miss Beadle to know who they are, for him to be in school, the whole thing.
Carolyn knows that his mother died, but she didn't know how. I assume that's because the Ingalls were the new family, not that these two were the new family. It doesn't look like they just moved here. It looks like they've lived there all of Graham's life.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they got to this point.
And this is one of the classic ominous, kinetic, violent handlings of 1970 education television. So it's one of those things where he asks about the meat, he says it's fine, everything is fine to the kid, and suddenly the father locks the door and removes his belt and snaps it between his hands.
Yeah.
And then we fade to black.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what the kid did to trigger this.
Yeah, because the kid does every enabler statement
Yeah.
that we know along the way. And then, but he's evidently well enough to go to school that day.
Yeah, with a black eye.
But he
So
goes to
it's more than
school.
the belt because he has a black eye. And then Mrs. Beadle takes him to Doc Baker,
Yeah.
where we see that he's got bruising all over his back.
And Pod just happens to be there.
Happens to be there. And this is okay. This is the other square I wanted to add. HIPAA violation. I realize there's no HIPAA laws in the 1870s. And Doc Baker's revolving door of whoever wants to walk into the back of his shop
Yeah.
really is kind of terrible.
Well,
Because
and there was a couple moments that made me laugh about this because we'll get to that. Okay, go. Yeah, but
because
yeah,
it's
I'm gonna
like
add
there's
that square
no reason for her to say, no, Charles, you should stay. Why?
because,
They,
well, I will say this is so she is Miss Beadle. She is single. And as a result of her being single and the school teacher, if the kid goes home or the doc confronts him, even though the doc did the Wild West maneuvers last time, maybe she just feels like she needs to be protected because obviously Charles is the hero of the town, even though that's not historically accurate.
but at the same time, Doc Baker, once she has this conversation with Doc Baker, and we now hear that this is the fourth time in as many months that she has taken him to
Yeah.
Doc Baker. They call a town meeting. So I don't know why other than Charles has to solve the problem. I
Well,
don't know why
they
he's
don't
drug
call the
in.
town meeting till the fifth time because evidently the fifth time's the charm there. It's not three strikes are out, it's five.
Oh
And it
yeah,
must
okay.
be the
So
way they
so it
do the
was
two whatever that game is, two ball or three ball,
yeah,
but
yeah. So so they hold a town meeting, and of course Graham is like, I don't want to leave my dad. I love my dad. He's
wait,
my
can we go
dad.
back first? He doesn't show up the fifth time.
Oh, I thought
Laura, yeah, he
okay,
doesn't show
so
up
this
the
is
fifth
after he
time.
is unconscious. Okay,
Miss
so
Beadle
it's the
walks,
yeah.
she sends the kids out to recess, tells Laura she's going to be gone for 10 minutes. She walks over to the
To
Hansons,
Charles. Why
to
would you not
Charles,
go to Doc Baker?
goes to Charles and says, hey, um, he's missing. And Charles says, I'm going to get in my buggy and go check on him. So then she turns around and walks right back. So like,
Why would you not inform the
why,
doctor? Why would
why would you not
nobody
inform the doctor? Why are you gone for five? So then Charles goes to
Charles
the
goes?
house, and this is something I want to talk about. So he goes to the house. The house is ripped to shreds. That sideboard, the screening is pulled off of it. Doors are pulled off.
Huh.
Everything is all over the place. And the table is to the side. And then he starts to walk out and he turns around. And that's when he sees the boy on the ground. And this is
Yeah.
what I want to talk about because you talked about HIPAA violations, but I had marked down about like first aid protocols.
This is
First
why
of all, he
this is
picks
why
the
I'm like,
kid
why
up
would you not bring the doctor? This Pa
and
is just moving this kid around.
well, also he does this jerk lift. So he picks him up and then to get him better situated in his arms, he hoists him.
He hoists
So the kid's head is bobbing up and down, his legs are bobbing up and down. If this kid has a broken ribs, which were presumed based on the previous times he had been
yeah.
able to get up. So this is worse than all of those times. And
He
he
was
has jerked this neck around so the spine could potentially be compromised. The kid is being
kid
hoisted
is
around. Then
unconscious. The kid is
the
unconscious. He
kid
has
is
a head injury.
unconscious. So he could potentially have something lodged in his throat, like vomit. Like there's so many medical things. Then he puts him on the bed and again tries to like lift his head up and he's bobbling him around. Then he wraps him up in this quilt and then he does the double hoist again. And then it's not like he gently puts him into the back of
No, he just kind
the
of throws
cart.
him in the
He
back.
kind of throws there and then jumps up where the kid's already going to be bouncing around and then takes him to Doc Baker.
Yeah.
And then that's when we see that the father is right out in the front in the
All
hay,
passed out.
passed out. So Charles, first of all, observation skills suck. And secondly, medical training sucks. So thank God for the veterinarian.
Yeah, because
Doc
I was like,
Baker.
I don't know why she wouldn't bring the doctor out there, because if something's wrong with him, he's going to need a doctor.
Right. Based on what's
And
already happened, it would have made more sense.
yeah,
So that was the thing. Yes. And then they call the town meeting. Sorry. Didn't mean,
yeah.
but
And
I
then
had
Graham's like,
written that
I want
down
to live
because I
with my
was
dad.
like,
I want to live with my dad.
yeah, this
And
is like such a, Charles has to be the hero moment. And yet
yes,
everything he does medically could have only made that kid so much worse. But
yeah.
I get it.
But
Um,
then we have him doing something else that I think would make so much worse. They split the two up.
right. Well,
Um,
so Ma's the voice of reason to that whole crowd.
yeah, because
And
they want
here
to
we
just
see the
basically
return of Mr. Kennedy. So Mr. Kennedy, he's a
Mr.
villain
Kennedy shows
person.
up in many episodes, and every time he is an
He's
asshole.
in 4 episodes, and I think this is the third of the 4. We might see
Yeah.
him one more time, but he's being the asshole, the one that doesn't understand. This is how we have that dialogue that's
Yes. This is
explanatory.
the woke moment. This is the 2024 woke moment. Mom going,
Right.
if you hurt the father, you're hurting the son because the son loves the father. You
Which I'm
can't,
really surprised that Ma got those lines, because
yeah,
prior to this, the only other time Ma got those reasonable lines was when Michael Landon was in that hospital and they had to give all of his lines to Ma
yeah,
that one episode. So it was really interesting. But anyway, so yeah.
yeah.
So
So
then
she's
the
the one that says
next,
you can't just run him out of town or string him up or throw him in jail.
yeah,
You have to solve the problem. So the solution is Graham goes to live with the Ingalls,
yeah,
and Pa goes to live with John to sober him up.
yeah,
And this is the unwoke moment because Pa's medical treatment here is to just work him. That's not how you cure alcoholism.
yeah. And sleep there so that if he has any nightmares or anything, which
Yes, he does.
suddenly, yeah, and he does. He has it about a bat, which we never hear why. And then he has all these ones about angels. Okay, cool,
Okay.
cool. Um, the thing that I found interesting is as they're working, the house is suddenly all fixed. This sideboard that's literally had the doors ripped off of it, but the mirror is still crooked on the wall to show that there
Yeah.
was a fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
They
Pocket
haven't
doesn't know how
fixed
to fix
everything yet.
mirrors. He just knows how to fix sideboards. Okay. No shirtless scenes.
No
In
shirtless
fact,
scene.
we
I was
actually
surprised
end
by
up with
that.
father, Charles and he at one point have the same flannel long john underwear on as they're sleeping
Yeah.
because, they're men, so they can't be shirtless around each other. I don't know.
I don't know, but that would be weird. But yeah,
Yeah.
his response to this is to basically sweat it out of him. He's going to work it out of his system.
Yeah.
That's not how you cure alcoholism. Um, and
Meanwhile,
quite
back at the
frankly,
ranch, yeah,
with as far gone as this guy obviously is, he doesn't have any memory of his blackout periods. He
yeah,
doesn't even realize he's the one abusing his kid. Um,
yeah,
he
yeah. He thought
he
they
would
had
be
just
in
come and
no shape at
kidnapped
all to
him.
do
He didn't
any
even,
of this farm work.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so like there's so many questions. Like, how did they survive all this time if
Yeah.
that was the case? Yeah, so meanwhile, back at the ranch with Caroline and the girls, we have Graham over there who doesn't want to be there. So he's pacing back and forth while Ma is suddenly telling him, why he's there. And then she makes him lunch to take to school, but he doesn't want to walk with them because he doesn't want anybody to know. That's what Laura tells us. There was a whole town
There's a
meeting.
whole town meeting.
Whole town
Everybody knows.
meeting.
Everybody
Everybody
freaking knows.
Well, like everybody knows this stuff, but yet Pa didn't know that this kid was getting beat until the town meeting.
Yeah.
But he had been there 4 times. Like, this is a small little town. Like, everybody knows everything, some of
Yeah.
the episodes, and then everybody knows nothing the other
Whenever it's
episodes.
convenient. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, this is the time when Mary, like, again, as we've talked about in separate episodes, sometimes Mary is the level of intelligence that the episode requires.
Yeah.
And this time she's the one trying to explain the difference between boy chickens and girl chickens, because we find out at this point, we have found out that part of the reason is that Graham has shared with Ma that he never knew his mom because she died at birth.
Yeah.
And so this implies that there were no other women. So again, how did he get to 10 years old if this father's been like this the whole time? But so
particularly because we also find out at this point that he blames him.
Right. That
but
he says in his
drunk.
drunken stupor, he says that he blames him.
So
if there's
I don't
been
know how they made it this long.
And if there's been no female presence, which Mary seems to imply that this is a known thing, because this is why she's very awkward about explaining girl parts versus boy parts on chickens. And so it's like, if there's no egg, then it must be a boy. It's like, what about the cock-a-doodle-doo on their head? There's other sides besides the private parts. So maybe Ma and Pa have not been educating you as well as you should
maybe
be.
They haven't had a talk with the girls yet.
Yeah.
But she gives him a chicken.
So she gives him a chicken, which was very sweet of her. So again, she was intellectually, emotionally smart enough to know that this would be meaningful to this kid, because clearly he doesn't want to get along with Laura. He just wants to be, and maybe it's because Mary didn't really have any scenes in the previous one except at the very beginning. To look
stupidly at Mr.
So
O'Hara.
Now she gets to have some emotional intelligence in her thing. And then the boy disappears, and the girls weren't going to tell their mom because it was going to be a surprise, because they didn't think that she needed to know. And also, he took a lit lantern out to the barn. Where have we seen this episode before? Mary burning down the barn. And then the mom
surprise Carolyn's like, oh God, another barn burning.
I was just like, dun dun dun. And there was so this is definitely like, meanwhile, it's one of those like superheroes, like the Halls of Justice with Ted Knight doing voiceover saying, meanwhile, back at the ranch, because it keeps going back and forth. So so Ma has this moment with Graham where he's talking about how much he misses his dad. And she turns around and says, well, I miss my husband too. Doesn't mention that the girls also miss their dad. Because clearly that's not a thing. And I get it. She's trying to relate to him. We're both missing people in our lives that we want to be with. But like, when do you become a ma instead of like a person? So realizing that this is really maybe the first mothering other than Miss Beadle that he's known.
And it has to be, because I don't know where else, why he doesn't know certain things. This just doesn't make sense.
So I get that they were trying to play in emotions. You never see this boy truly in pain. His building skills, he seems to imply that his dad was a good builder, but then he stops himself because he realized he's also confessing that he's had to learn how to do these things because his dad was always drunk. So he's just casually saying, well, usually by dinner time he's drunk as a skunk, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, you do not have the emotional payoff that a title of Child of Pain implies. It's really the father's pain that we keep experiencing, not the child's.
And it doesn't help that, and I don't like to rag on child actors, because I always chalk that more as a director problem than a child actor problem. But this child actor is not very good.
This is a little boy named Johnny Lee. He only has 12 acting credits to his name, and this one is his last credited role. So he does appear in one other thing as an uncredited actor, so background actor. So, and he never appears again, which is starting to become like the curse of Little House of the Prairie. So many of these one-off actors, like they do like a handful of things. They do Little House on the Prairie, and then they never work again.
Never,
And I need
yeah,
somebody to explain this to me. But anyway,
they're disappearing
yeah,
just like the town folks. And I do consider these two disappeared town folks because you never see them again.
yeah. So, but on the other hand, back at the other ranch, there was a scene where John is piling logs, and they play funny music, like dun dun dun
Yeah,
type of music, but nothing happens there. And so I had a false moment where I expected that he was going to be pulling a bottle out of the firewood.
yeah.
And he didn't do that. Also, he's doing a terrible job of stacking up the wood. But anyway,
He's also doing a terrible job chopping the wood.
yeah.
It's very obvious that the actor in question doesn't chop a whole lot of wood because he's like holding the axe like a good 3 inches from the blade.
Yeah.
You're not getting a swing.
Yeah. But also, if you've been drunk, he just hasn't had the
Probably
capability
hasn't
to do
chopped the
that.
wood. Yeah,
So it could
his
be
what?
method acting. Could be.
How did this
Probably a
child get through?
combo.
How did this child of pain get through infancy with this father? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. This is what I'm
This
asking.
we're implied that he's a drunk because his wife died in childbirth. If you had just explained, well, this started last year when he lost his job.
Right. Like there needed to be
There
another
needed to be
moment in there.
like a turn instead
Because
of,
there's
well, he's
no way
always been
they've
drunk.
lived in this town this long with as nosy as these townspeople are
Yeah,
and not addressed it. Tell me how this happened. Tell me how. I'm
because
sorry.
you know Harriet's keeping an eye on whoever goes into Doc Baker's house.
Like
Or
the fact that Pa had him make a cornfield, if he's making him make a cornfield, where do all these potatoes come from? It's not like, oh, I found a bunch of berries in the bushes and
yeah,
acorns and I made acorn flour. Like somehow this guy had to be doing something. And
he's getting money somewhere to at least buy all the whiskey.
that's never explained. So
No,
yeah, so then Pa, again, not medically trained, not a degree in psychology or counseling, right?
yeah,
Goes and starts being like, well, when did your wife die? Why did your wife die? Why do you tell your son whenever you're beating him that it's his fault
it's his
that your wife
fault.
died? And then that's suddenly the breaking point where the two of them start fighting each other and all this stuff. And then he goes out to, he waits until Charles is asleep, gets up, but then we see Charles is awake. He
Yes.
goes out to the same, oh, so I have a theory, but anyway, so he goes out to this barn and he digs through the straw and we see him
His
uncover a
pulled out
bottle
bottle.
because of course Charles doesn't check in any of the other places because he's so knowledgeable about how to get a man sober, but he doesn't know to look there. Again, I feel like Pa's like Mary in this episode. He's as
Yeah.
intelligent or
As
observant
intelligent as it need be.
as the
He knows
episode
he has more
calls
than
for.
one bottle, but he's not gonna look for holdouts
Yeah, like
anywhere.
he shows one other holdout. You kidding me? This guy is literally drunk every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he pulls it out and he finds it. By the way, when his hands are around that bottle, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with his hands? Excuse my language, everybody. What the heck is wrong with his hands? Because they're all dirty and crusty and all this stuff, but I realize he's been working hard. And then he pours it out
Yeah.
without into the hay because that's not flammable. That seems like a good
Yeah.
idea.
Well,
Let's have
get your
the
cows drunk.
horses.
Well, I don't think they have any livestock. I don't know why they have hay.
Yeah. But yeah, so that made sense to me. And then that yeah. So
And that's it. He's no longer an alcoholic.
yeah, yeah,
Literally
he's
like the
done.
next day they go
Yeah,
home.
they go home. And then Graham gets his crate, which they get the crate for the chicken to be able to take the chicken home and use that burlap. How are you supposed to get, you're gonna have to take, there's no way to get the chicken back out and have that be a usable crate again without
Yeah.
you re-nailing on the lid every single time. So okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so
I
so
I was
yeah.
thinking it was just going to be to cart him home, but then he's like, well, he's got to have somewhere to live when he's at my place. I'm like, that's not big enough, honey.
Also, what are you gonna do for grain? Like, because your pot is not got. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is
But
very
now
much
they'll
we're
have
solving
eggs.
alcoholism in 45 minutes,
Yeah,
and he'll never be an alcoholic again, even though nothing really was solved.
yeah. So here's
And I
the
did like I was actually like, because Reverend Alden goes out to talk to Charles while
yeah.
Charles is
Well,
with John.
yeah.
And I'm
Well,
like,
and
so you
John
never
goes,
once went out and checked on this guy?
well, I think Reverend Alden used that as the reason because he totally got called out. That was a 2024.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like that was a woke moment. Interesting that you never came to visit me all these other times, and now
Yeah.
suddenly you're here. And Father Alden's like, Reverend Alden is like, oh, well, I stopped by and saw Charles and the Laura, Carolyn
Yeah. So
and the
the
girls from.
only reason you even dropped by here. So and I'm like,
But maybe he didn't. He went because he knew that the town hall meeting that he was there. And now suddenly he's inserting himself. But
yeah.
he used, oh, well, I was just
But
here because Charles was
10
here. I felt
years?
like that was a lie. So
Yeah,
yeah,
10
10
years
years.
you didn't check on this kid? You didn't check on his drunk dad?
If nothing else, to get their money in the altar plate, if you could,
Yeah,
you must have just not come because you knew they didn't have money. Yeah, I just felt
sad
like
but
that
true.
was sus. Yeah, so I felt that was an interesting moment. So the fourth wall thing that I noticed, other than the how quickly everything got repaired inside the house except for the one
Yeah.
mirror. So there's the scene where you see the house that they're driving when Charles is driving up to the house, and you see that the fence is in disrepair. And I only noticed this, and I might not have noticed it if it hadn't been in the order it was, because remember, the circus man and the plague were switched in the
Yeah.
original. So this would have been 2 episodes apart. But in this instance, the order that we watched it in, the circus man was right before this. There is a scene in the circus man where Ma and Pa are out fixing their fence, and the rails are down in the exact same pattern. So it's literally like they put the Stewart's house on that same lot and came at it from a different angle, so that they could reuse that fence as being in disrepair. So I thought that was interesting. And the same thing with the scene in the barn. Clearly, that was the same barn that we use for all of the Ingalls
Yep.
scenes. They just cut at it at a slightly different angle just to focus on the pile of hay. So that was two set moments that I
Interesting
just
little
noticed.
kind of behind the scenes things, but yeah.
Yeah, that you just kind of notice. It's kind of like the belt loop thing that we've talked about before that was a little anachronistic. So, um, but so John Stewart was really the father, was really the focus of the episode,
Yeah.
much more than Graham was. This is Harris Yulin. Harris Yulin has been in hundreds of
Everything.
things.
One of those
He is one of
completely
these, yeah,
it's
he's
like
one of
from
those.
Play with Matt Clark where you recognize Matt Clark from like everything. I get the same thing
Yeah.
with this guy. It's like, oh
Yes.
yeah, you were in
So
everything.
he is one of these, he's one of these omnipresent character actors. If you go through the IMDb, there were definitely things that he was in that you would know him from, but he never got one big series that was the one that penultimately brought him like his much success. But since we're geeks, I wanted to point out the one thing that you would know him from if you are a geek, and that was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He played over the course of several seasons one of the Elder Watchers, the head watcher from the London division.
Yes.
So he was that, but he often played kind of the bad guy, and he was known as being very generous in real life and not being like that at all. But he often played the bad guy or the potentially bad guy very well. Also never in Bonanza and Gunsmoke, so you don't get to get that as a thing. Neither was
There
Johnny
goes
Lee. You
there goes
could
my
get it.
bingo. Never mind.
You could get it for Heffley and Bolton, but you would not get it for. So Mark Clark, who was played by Bolton, it says that he was in this scene and he was in Bonanza, so you would be fine for that.
Okay. He was in Bonanza or Gunsmoke? Gunsmoke.
He was in Bonanza.
Well, there goes my bingo. Never mind.
Okay, wait, hold on.
I was counting on a Gunsmoke first.
Let me double check. I'm going back in my notes about Kennedy.
Still looking for that bingo. You know what? Maud doesn't technically cry in this episode either, so I really shouldn't claim this bingo at all.
Mr. Kennedy, who was played by Heffley, was in fact in Gunsmoke, so you get that.
Okay.
And Maud did cry. Maud did cry.
Well, she teared up.
Yeah, she teared up for sure. So I did not get a bingo. I used card 16. Which card were you using?
18.
Okay. So 16, I got the lemon verbena mention. Harriet didn't commit any crimes or say oh no's. There was no popcorn in bed or children in the outhouse. That's row 1. I did have someone dies because we talked about the fact that the mother died.
Mm-hmm.
Pa was never shirtless. Pa never cried. He did get angry. There was no wild animals attacking, but the townsfolk did disappear. This is the only episode we see those two in.
We don't ever see this father and son again.
Nellie was in this episode because you saw her in the background at the school, but she didn't have any speaking lines, so she didn't cry. She and Laura didn't fight.
And I looked in the corner, and Willie was not in the corner, so
yeah. Someone did get hurt. Graham got hurt several times. You have the free space for Jack, but Jack really isn't featured in this. Also, it's another episode where Carrie did not say a single word. So whichever bingo card you had,
you
only
see her once.
Yeah. So again, towards the end, when they're finding out that he can go home, and when they're leaving to go to school. So the 2 breakfasts are the times you see Carrie. No one ran up and down the hill. Laura didn't get in trouble. I did put down that Ma said, "Oh, Charles," and she did cry, but nobody was lost, hostage, or kidnapped. Laura never cried. Ma and Pa definitely exchanged the knowing look in the town hall. Nellie and Laura didn't fight. There were no guests. I guess there was a guest on both Bonanza and Gunsmoke. I hadn't marked that because of the 2 side actors. Although I will say that Matt Clark, I was looking for him and I didn't see him, but I don't think he had speaking lines. I think he was just a crowd actor that time. And then someone's fever breaks. I just said that because of the alcohol sweats.
The alcoholism broke.
But even with that, I had a total of 5 plus 6. I had 11 squares, but none of them equaled a bingo.
Yeah. I got 1 bingo, which is 2024 unwoke moment and a 1970s woke moment. I claim both.
Yep.
Ma cries, someone from Gunsmoke, and then someone gets hurt. So that was my bingo.
Awesome.
So that finally got a bingo.
Finally, because I've gotten 2 now so far, and you've gotten 1.
Yes.
So, but I am going to add HIPAA violation. And what was the thing from last episode we decided we needed to add?
The town folk collectively lose their minds.
Town goes stupid. I'm just going to call it that.
Yeah, town goes stupid.
Yeah.
We almost could count that for plague as well. What with fleas hopping in your cornmeal and you're not even noticing it while you're making the bread.
What the heck? So, well, it was fun to get back to this. We definitely had to take a break for a little while. I had some health issues going on. We had the holidays and just a number of situations going on. And we are now back at our regularly scheduled programming on Fridays. So
yes,
if you missed us, we apologize. Really, no, it's not. Don't blame Carol. Blame me. And if you blame me, well, screw you too. So no kidding. But listen, we're in a much better place now. We're back on the road, and we have 2 more episodes. What are the next 2 episodes we'll be recording for?
Next 2 episodes are, I think, Money Crop, which is a Charles Goes Stupid episode, and then I think oh God, what's the one after Money Crop?
Well, Money Crop is next. That's all you need to know. So come back and check us out then. We're also going to do a little side conversation in the next couple weeks just about the reboot. So we didn't want to put that in one of these episodes. We wanted to make it separate.
We'll keep that separate. So Okay.
So,
Well, until next time, we'll see you on the Prairie.
bye.
Thanks for listening to Two Woke Bonnets. To find out more and to download your bingo card, visit twowokebonnets.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever fine video and audio podcasts are played.